And it's funny because sometimes it feels like, oh, why am I being optimistic? It's just like, you know, it's almost like you're hoping for something that never happens. But it really taught me about the essence of what faith truly is. Because what does optimistic actually mean? You've got optic and then you've got mystic, right? Opti or optimistic. Opti can be for you to see. Seeing something beyond what you can presently see right now. So for example, we're all in a pandemic in 2020. I've been incredibly productive in this pandemic, in this second lockdown, just as I was in the first lockdown. The first lockdown, I was like, do you know what? Forget all of that that's happening. I'm putting my intentions on what I want to manifest, and I ended up manifesting a book. And then we've come around to the second lockdown. I ended up literally doing exactly the same thing. So I have something else that I will be bringing out shortly that I think you guys will really appreciate, especially when it comes to different perspectives to some of the things that are very common within the self-help spiritual community, so to speak. Some of the buzzwords that goes around in society now, like really looking at the truth of narcissism, looking at the truth of empathy, looking at the truth of power struggles, because I think that's a thing that we don't often really talk about. How can we really practically deal with power struggles without falling into victimhood and blaming someone else for not actually stepping into our power? So that's something that I have that you guys can look forward to. I'm sure you guys are going to really appreciate this read, and the perspective that I'm bringing to some of these topics, as I usually do. So yeah, I wanted to do a quick little live today. And a little reminder that we have 6 days left until the Astrology 101 webinar in the Inner Realms Academy. Now, we are going to be starting a series about astrology, breaking down different components of astrology. I know it's a very trending thing that people are getting into, but I really don't, I feel like sometimes, especially when it becomes quite popular and people start bringing in pop culture into astrology, it sometimes dilutes the essence of what it really is meant for. And I want to be able to provide that scope in terms of discovery, personal discovery, self-discovery, mental discovery, psychological discovery, soul discovery, all of these different elements, karmic discoveries. A lot of these things we're always questioning, where is this influence coming from? And some of us want to know, okay, what is, not necessarily what is our past life, but what is this influence, what is this weight that I'm carrying over that I feel like I'm continually repeating over and over and over in my life? That is a karmic pattern that we can identify within our natal charts. So I'm going to be talking generically about, today I'm actually going to talk about the sun, moon and rising sign, because I feel like it's important, number one, just to get on the cards that we're not just our sun sign. So if you're coming into astrology and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a Gemini, oh yeah, I'm a Leo, oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn, that's just showing you where the sun was when you were born. Astrology shows you, or your natal chart, what would be considered your natal chart. This would be a snapshot of what the sky looks like when you were born. So when you were born, Jupiter was in this particular constellation, the sun was in this particular constellation, Pluto was here, Mercury was here, and there was a conversation, a particular conversation, a unique conversation that was taking place. And why do I say it's unique? Because nobody has the same natal chart, even if you were born at the same time. You've got locations, you've got different influences that take place. So everyone has a completely different natal chart. So it's beyond just identifying, yes, I'm a sun sign in this. So yes, as I was saying, it's a snapshot of what was taking place in the sky when you were born. This is representative of the energetic and the hidden influences that we would often experience and feel within our personal lives, but not understand why is this influence here? Where does it come from? Why is this something that I continually keep attracting? That's all down to the time and the place that you were born. The energies that you had access to. So our natal chart is essentially our blueprint. If you ever want to understand where you're going, where you've been, where you are now, look to your natal chart. Your natal chart will tell you what influences you have coming in the future, what influences you've dealt with in the past, and where you currently are now, so that you can transmute and go towards your desired destination. I want to put this in here first because I feel like it's important, especially when it comes to like Mercury retrogrades, and particularly Mercury, because that's the planet that a lot of us you know, when a retrograde comes up, it's Mercury that a lot of people would be more aware of, and we kind of attribute, okay, these planets are dictating our lives, which in essence they are, but I want to talk about that in a different conversation. But in essence, they are not. And why do I say that? Because these are all influences that you have access to. You are not subject to, you know, Jupiter saying that you will never get in a relationship and be married or whatever. That's not what that says. It's about saying, okay, this is the influences that you've had that you have access to. You may for you to be able to overcome this influence and transmute it into something else, this is what you need to be able to do. So I like to take a very more of an evolutionary approach to astrology, as opposed to seeing it as like a finalized type energy, because that's not really what it is all about. Now, astrology has helped me so much in my own personal life, because especially I've shared this before, I am on the spectrum of autism, so I find it really beneficial to be able to have a kind of pattern system that helps me to identify things that I may not understand, and use that to be able to dig a bit deeper. I was even having this conversation yesterday with my partner. I was like, okay, I have Saturn in the third, so there's been a lot of restrictions to my own personal childhood and the things that I was able to be exposed to. I didn't really have the same type of experiences as a lot of other people, but what I found is that, especially through astrology, I find that it's almost like I can skip a few I've skipped a whole load of chapters, but I can still understand the essence of the book, because astrology is the mother of sciences. It's the mother that connects all sciences and everything logical, everything within this system. Someone says, what about those of us that don't know our time of birth? How will we be able to either find that out or our natal chart? So you can actually get your chart rectified. If you have a really good astrologer, they can actually rectify your chart and be able to ask you a set of questions that can qualify what your rising sign is, and from there we can give you a reading based on that. So yeah, even if you don't have your time of birth, there's still a way that you can still get your chart done, but you just need to make sure that you access a skillful astrologer. So back to the sun, moon and rising sign. So I'm just going to take some time to break down these little concepts, and I've shared this before. I've shared this a lot of times because I really like this example of demonstrating how this operates. So as I said, you're not just your sun sign. You have your sun sign, you have your moon sign, you have your rising sign, and you have all your other planets, all your other asteroids and stuff like that, but that's a whole nother story. We're just going to focus on the sun, moon, and rising signs, and this is what we like to call the big three. And if you've ever kind of wondered why some people, especially if you just meet someone, or when people first meet you, they have a particular assumption of you without actually getting to know you, they might be picking up your rising sign. They might be picking up your aura, the things that are being projected from your aura off of you. They may not know your moon sign. They may not know the intimate parts of you. And some people may, everyone else that has access to, they will be able to see your sun sign. Now, your sun sign is what I like to see as the energy that you're growing into. It's not necessarily who you are. It's who you're becoming. It's how you identify. But it's where your strength lies. It's where the light shines the most. So when you're in your when you're in your light, you'd be in the light of your sun sign. So when I'm in my light, I'm in the light of my Gemini, as I'm able to communicate, I'm able to express, and particularly for me, because I have Saturn on the 3rd. I do struggle with articulation. I also am dyslexic, so spelling, all of those types of things are very is a struggle for me. I also grew up with a very limited vocabulary kind of spectrum thing. So as I grew, and Saturn represents not just limitations, and this is another thing I really want to place in this, because there's a lot of typical keywords that gets assigned to planets and signs, and I feel like it's very it limits itself, just like I'm just talking about Saturn. People will say, okay, Saturn limits, it restricts, but Saturn is a perceived limitation, and I'm going to tell you the science of why that would be considered a perceived limitation, or I'll go deeper into that into the Astrology 101 webinar. But Saturn was the end of the universe, so to speak, for a particular time. That was what they thought. There was no more planets after that, so they thought, oh, this is a limit. But no, it's actually perceived limitation, because there was actually more planets beyond that. We just needed to go beyond the four walls of what we had been exposed to. So I have struggled with I grew up struggling with being able to communicate, but as I worked in that area, and I paid more attention to that area of learning how to speak, learning how to write, reading more, it's allowed me to come more into my light of my Gemini, to where I can, not only study, but share some of the things that I study, and in a more intelligent way, if that makes sense. But yeah, I said all of that to kind of highlight, to demonstrate that coming into your sun sign, it will take, especially your Saturn. Saturn really helps to solidify how you connect to your sun sign, because that's where you have your Saturn returns. This happens every 27 to 28 years. I'm currently just finishing up my Saturn return. As those of you who are also Saturn in Capricorns, well done, we made it. But back to the sun sign. So the sun sign would be considered like the front room. In your front room, everyone comes into your front room. This is a space that everyone, when people see you, this is how they identify you. This is how they mostly identify you. It's also when you're most comfortable. It's the place that everyone mostly sees from you. It's the place that, it's the part of you that is mostly expressed. It's the place where you're mostly comfortable in. As I said, this is where the light shines. This is where you, this is also representative of your consciousness. Now, it's very interesting, because this is, the sun is also connected to the father. So this is actually really, really this is sperm. The sun is actually electricity. It's like, this is how women used to give birth through parthenogenesis. They used to literally sit out in the sun, van bay, and receive a child through the sun. So the sun is actually electrified sperm, so to speak. So sun sign in astrology would have those similar influences from the father, in terms of the consciousness of your father, receiving the consciousness of your father, or not only just the father, the consciousness of your father figures or male figures in your life. And you'll also see that with Saturn as well. That's why I like to talk about Saturn in connection with the sun. So especially when it comes to that, start asking yourself, like, what did I learn about strength? You'll often find that it links to your sun sign, and it always links back to your dad. So you'll find some connections around that. It's how you control your universe. What is the sun? The sun is in the middle of these planets, and these planets are evolving around the sun. So the sun is actually your center point. It's where you it's your solar plexus. So this is also where solar plexus, soul, also your soul. This is what governs the soul. It's the identity of the soul. It's the imprint of the soul. It's how you navigate and express your identity and express your purpose. So the sun sign is very powerful, but it's not the only part in our chart. So let's start talking about other parts in the chart. You have the moon sign. Now, whereas the sun would be considered the light, as it's shining the light on the things that we can see, so it's what we are aware of. The moon often becomes the hidden parts. It's the parts that we're not aware of. So if we see the sun as the front room, the moon sign would be your bedroom. Not everyone comes into your bedroom. Not everyone comes into your intimate space. So people will only be able to understand this part of you if they have deep, intimate relationships with you. This is a part of you that really is going to emotionally connect to people. So even when you're talking about relationships, it's not just Venus. You don't just look to your Venus. Your moon sign, there has to be some type of connections with your moons, because this is your emotional desires. This is the things that your soul is just yearning for. It's yearning for that type of experience with your moon sign. With me being a Scorpio moon, I crave depth. I need to have some type of emotional depth in my relationships for me to be able to feel secure. And with me being an 8th house sun, the 8th house is also ruled by Scorpio. My sun sign is in Gemini. Communication and intelligence, I have to have those types of intelligent conversations, deep intelligent conversations within my own relationships, as that helps me to transform myself. I'm able to bounce off other people. So yes, the moon sign is the parts that people don't see. When you meet someone and you start to develop a relationship with them, you will again first be introduced to your sun sign, but it will take a long time for them to really come into your moon sign. And this is where sometimes you'll be like, oh, they just switched up on me. No, you just didn't see a part of them that had been hidden. It was in their bedroom the whole time. You ain't been to the bedroom yet. So the moon is ruled by water, and we're also 70% water. Interestingly enough, the oceans are also 70% unexplored as well. There's some connections in there that we're going to be dropping in the Astrology 101 webinar, because as above, so below, there's always a connection with everything. Nothing is disconnected. So water in essence is, as it's also the emotions, we don't often know what is the hidden influence of emotions. We just feel it. We're just overwhelmed by these things that just come from nowhere. So there's a lot that we don't really know about this place. It's just a place that creates instincts that we end up just falling into this type of mold, whatever your moon sign is. So this is also, with it being water, water holds memory. Water holds memory, so it's holding attachments to its past, if it's holding memory. So this is where you'll have a lot of this is where the past patterns begin to start playing out more. The moon, what does it do? It goes around in the same phases over and over again. So you can have this tendency to keep playing out the same scenarios due to your emotional state. So basically allows you to understand more of your emotional experiences. Now this will also link to childhood experiences, as the moon deals with the mother. So as the sun and Saturn would usually deal with the father, we have the moon that will deal with the mother and the maternal influences. This is also going down into DNA, as DNA is also DNA is also connected to memory and water. So this is where you'll find ancestral influences and patterns coming through, or karmic patterns and influences coming through. They're exactly the same thing. Ancestry and karma, or karmic. You're always going to find those connections. However, there is a certain level of personalization in that too. So yeah, so as I said, it governs your emotions, governs your karmic patterns. It also governs your manifestations, and this is why it's really important for you to understand the states of your emotions, because it's not so much your moon and your Venus have to be in harmony, right? So your emotions with your values and the things that you're attracting. So if your emotions is in a very negative place, you're going to be attracting something that will be matching your emotional state. Let me put this on charge before this cuts out on me. Yeah, so you have to be very mindful of the things that you are attracting. Now, the moon can also deal with projections, and I always show this picture of Plato's cave, which I absolutely love, and it's showing this shadow projection that is almost being played by someone else. And it's quite interesting because the moon is in essence known as a satellite or a foreign entity within our solar system. In fact, I'm not even going to get in that. The whole planet is foreign to our system, but that's a whole nother story for another day. This is why I say don't get caught up in astrology. Just use it as an archetypal form, because a lot of the NASA's a whole line. You can take what you want from that. I'm not going to say too much on Facebook. But yeah, so your projections are going. Do you see how Facebook pulls me off from that? That's why I say I got to be careful on Facebook. What was I saying now? Yeah, so your projections are ruled by your moon. So your moon sign would almost project what type of project to your consciousness what type of reality you're in. So it may not even be what is being projected to you may not even be real. It may just be your emotions just tangling up something and creating some narrative that never happened, and then end up manifesting it anyway, and then want to kind of make out like, oh, how did this happen? I didn't have anything to do with this. No, you did. But yeah, the moon sign is a very, very tricky sign, or tricky element to deal with, because you have to really be in tune with yourself and The moon is also known as the prison of the soul, so it can literally be your entrapment because it wants to stay doing the same thing over and over again, not breaking out a pattern. But you have to force yourself to interrupt the pattern of the moon so that it can go into an evolutionary standpoint as opposed to just a circular standpoint, if that makes sense. So if, say, for example, for me, as a moon is Scorpio, there's this program projection of fear. With a moon in Taurus, there'd be this program projection of attachment. With moon in Cancer, there'd be this excessive or this programmed projection of excessive nurture or lack of nurture, and having to again find attachments elsewhere. So there's loads of different programmed attachments that we have that allows us to only limit how we can see our experiences, because that's what we lacked, that's what we needed from our own childhood experiences, and then we kind of hold on to those, hold on to that, and that becomes our little crutch ground, our little comfort zone that we don't like to break out of. So it's important to be aware of the moon sign. So then we go on to the rising sign. Now remember, I was saying that your rising sign is in essence your aura. It's what people see when they first see you. It's like your foyer. Just when people come into your foyer, this is the first thing they're going to see, but they will see your aura or your spirit. This is your spiritual imprint. This is your your spirit is going to talk for you. Like if you're a Leo rising, there's going to be this essence of drama and dramaticness that will be there. And people will just perceive you as dramatic, but you're not actually being dramatic. You're just being yourself. And it can play out in different ways, because we can have different aspects and different houses and things that is playing out in, and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, this is when people first meet you. This is what they're going to pick up. This is the first impression that people get when they meet you. So if you're around people and you don't really know why you don't like them, you might actually just be picking up their rising sign, and you may need to take some time to get to know them, to understand who is this person really, what are they about, what they really, you might actually find that you might get on, but you're just picking up the rising sign, you're picking up the spiritual essence of them. You may not actually genuinely like them. You know, you may not be like, actually I don't like your spirit's off, let me keep my distance. And that's perfectly okay, but that's still the rising sign, the imprint that you're getting off of that. Your rising sign will also be so you've got your rising sign is also your first house, right? So this is, whenever we talk about the first house or the ascendant, the rising sign, is all the same thing. Your 12th house, which obviously would be before your first house, because this is a circular wheel that we're talking about, this would be representative of your past life. So your past life, you would have been your 12th house. So me as a Scorpio rising, I would have been a Libra rising in my past life. So I'm having to clear up a lot of the karmic issues of Libra relationships, you know, not allowing myself to or having to always be on the line to make everyone happy, people pleasing, all of that type of stuff. I had to learn how to come away from that and come into a more of a transformative experience that becomes more empowering for myself and allows me to come more into my authentic truth. So this is what would be how your rising sign would play out. Your rising sign is also your life mission. What is my life mission? You look to your rising sign, because your rising sign will also show you your journey. As I said, your rising sign rules your houses. You've got your houses 1 to 12. Each one of those houses is a different a different influence of experience. Those are also ages 1 to 12 and back again if you've made it past 12, which most of us are that's on this live right now. It shows you your cycle of experiences. It shows you where you started off. It shows you where you transitioned into. It's showing you your whole journey. So this is it also, how impactful your rising sign is that it would also imprint your facial expressions. So I don't know if you guys, even me highlighting this may even bring up some insecurities or whatever, hey. But I have slightly like it's not symmetrical, not symmetrical, I don't know the word for that, but irregular kind of eyes. Like, I'm a Gemini, right? I'm also a Scorpio rising, so my eyes are very intense. My eyes are very whenever I'm looking at people, sometimes they're like, oh, you literally feel like you're just looking straight through me. And I'm like, yeah, I am, because I'm seeing you. Like, I want to see you. I want to see or feel your essence. I want to, you know, that a Scorpio rising is going to penetrate. It's almost like penetrative, I can't even say the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Vision. It's just cutting straight through to the chase. And I've also got an 8th house sun, so my house is in the 8th house of Scorpio, so I've kind of got that weird not equal face or eyes, but my eyes are going to be more intense and more prominent. So astrology plays out in so many different ways, and you're going to see those influences everywhere that you go. A Leo rising, they might have some kind of feline features because of the cat, lion. They might have big hair, you know, just even the prowess, even the way that they carry themselves, like a lion, authority, all that type of stuff. You can see how that's playing out in their personality. So as I said, your rising sign sorry, your rising sign is going to shape the essence of your experiences. It's going to shape it's really what raised you. That's how you can see your rising sign. It's what raised you. So what raised me is a Scorpio rising. Crisis raised me. Crisis taught me that, you know, it's gonna come and it's not gonna last. What you do with it is down to you. So transform or just fall down. That's been my life experiences. That's what's raised me. So look to your rising sign and ask yourself, what raised me? What was I raised by? And this is what you will begin to understand, or you'll begin to identify how do you identify your experiences, or how people even see you as identifying your experiences. Yeah, so these are the 3 different elements of your big 3, your sun, moon, and your rising sign. As I said, there's much more to your chart, and what we will be doing on next week, Saturday, where we have the Astrology 101 series, is we'll be breaking down different elements of the chart so that you can learn how to be able to read your chart yourself. You can see these different keywords, these different references, and you can learn how to literally sew them all together. Astrology reading or astrology interpretations is literally about learning how to sew keywords and archetypes together. It's really that simple. But you have to begin to understand what these archetypes are, where they came from, why do they exist, and identify those same archetypes within your own life so that you can identify it when it's being projected to you outside of yourself. I really appreciated this because it helped me to understand people. I mean, there's particular people, like I didn't understand Capricorns for one. I really didn't understand them, but through astrology it really helped me to understand, oh, actually they're not being harsh. It's just they're very principle driven. They're very, you know, straight to the point. And that was something that I was having to learn how to develop in myself. I had to learn how to become more grounded. I had to learn how to become more structured, and I had to learn how to become more principle orientated, so I could understand how these clashes were coming out in the people that I was interacting with, because they literally became my mirror. They were the mirror for the things that I wasn't having in my own chart. And another thing I want to note is, if you notice you have any empty houses, no planets in a particular house, this is where other people will be filling these houses for you. So if you have no 12th house energy, if you have no 7th house energy, the people that you're around, they will become that 7th house energy for you, and that's how you'll be able to learn about your 7th house. So you have to learn how to see your mirrors in everything around you, not to be defensive to it. Sometimes we don't like to see ourselves reflected in other people, and we disassociate from it. That's not me, that's that person, they're wrong, they're off key, they're this, they're that. They're actually reflecting elements of ourselves that we don't like to address, and all of that is a part of shadow work. So that's another reason why I love astrology, because it helps the shadow work journey, or makes it much more streamlined, as you're able to pinpoint, okay, this is exactly what it is, this is exactly what it is, okay, what do I need to move forward, this is what I need to do to move forward. So it just lays it out very clear, very straight to the point, no questions asked. And I really want to begin to empower you with these tools to learn how to do this yourself. So if you would like to learn how to do this yourself, you can head over to my website. I'm going to put the link in the description once I finish this live, but it's on my website, www.trueselfproject.co.uk, and it's under the Astrology 101 series. You'll see on my website I've placed a couple dates over the next few months, showing some of the topics that we're going to be digging into. Each one of these topics are 3 hours long, so it's not a skimming webinar at all. Like, we're digging all the way deep. If you guys have taken a webinar of mine before, you know I do not spare any knowledge on any of these things. I go really in, I really go really deep, because I want you guys to understand the full scope of this stuff, and how deep it really goes, how expansive it really goes. And I'm just really excited about talking about astrology. I'm genuinely passionate about it. So like I said, if you'd like to go and sign up to the webinar, you can head over to the website, and I'll be placing out some more information on that as well. Tomorrow night, I know I was supposed to do that today. Tomorrow I will be announcing the winners of... Oh, thank you, Oshin. Thank you, I appreciate you. I will be dropping the winners of... I've picked out some winners of... for those that will be coming into the Astrology 101 series. The webinar we'll be doing on Saturday, and our shadow surgery clinic that we have coming up next month, which you guys do not want to miss out on, because that's going to be another thing in itself. I don't know if you're feeling charged up by the energy that you're feeling already. Like, I've just been charged the last few weeks, especially since Mars went direct. I've just been writing. Like, these books are coming along real strong. And I'm like, it's not even just the books. It's not even just the actual, not even just the book element of things, but the book is representative of the power that I'm coming into myself. I've had to be doing a lot of work off camera in my own time, because how can I not do the work and be telling you to be doing the work too? So if you see that fire that's coming up in me now, it's because I've been really doing that work. And Shadow Surgery Clinic is where we want to be able to turn it up a notch and prepare for 2021, because I ain't missing no express train for no quantum leap nowhere. I'm catching this one, and I'm hoping you guys can meet me on that one too. So as I said, if you guys want to sign up for any of those webinars, they are listed on my website. Again, the website is www.trueselfproject.co.uk. And if you have any questions, you should send me a message either on my Facebook, or you can email me on trueselfprojectinfo@gmail.com. And yeah, any other questions, you can just hit me up. But I'm going to get going because this wasn't supposed to be a long live. And I still got to have my little self-love evening with my partner. So I will catch you guys on the other side. Sending love.